Before we begin our substantive discussion today, I want to start with a few words. I ran for mayor in the aftermath of the murder of Laquan McDonald, and I was sickened watching our community struggle under the weight of racial disparities, of systemic inequities, and of daily injustices. Seeing the video of George Floyd dying on the ground under the knee of a Minneapolis police officer, for me, brought back that trauma of Laquan McDonald's death into sharp focus. And I would believe that that happened for many people across Chicago. And we have to think, but for the grace of God, go Chicago. It's been a painful reminder that while we have been focused on fighting this virus, we know our work in facing hard truths about disparities and injustices is not yet done, and that we have to remain resolute and not lose sight of why fighting these fights is so critically important, even in the middle of, and maybe especially because we're in the middle of a pandemic. We can't rest knowing that Black mothers and fathers in our city still live in fear of getting a phone call about something terrible happening to one of their children. I know I hug my daughter a little longer at night every time I hear a story about Mr. Floyd, and I think about my brothers and men in my family, another Black American that is killed in this way. And it's a generational burden. I know my own mother carried it, and I carry it too. Our communities face some of the most dangerous circumstances we have perhaps ever faced. We need our police to be working alongside of us, supporting us, and protecting all of us. They are responding to thousands of calls for service every day in every neighborhood and doing heroic work daily under the most difficult circumstances perhaps ever. They are adjusting to this outbreak while still called to deal with the challenges they face long before this pandemic came into focus. Challenges like tackling open-air drug markets that have only gotten more difficult and more dangerous in the last few months, or curbing gun violence, which is always tough, and particularly in the summer months, and it's even more demanding when we can't deploy the full protective network of social support that we know is a critical component of violence prevention. Even in these circumstances, Superintendent Brown and I are in lockstep. We are united in our vision for public safety, our shared vision for how to strengthen and deepen the most important thing that the department can do, which is to build authentic, trusted partnerships with the community. And we are united in making clear to our officers that we hold them and that they must hold themselves to the highest standards. We simply can't go backward. There are some communities, particularly in the South and the West Sides, where Chicagoans call for police presence more often. That is their right, and they are entitled to service. They must be able to do so with the expectation that when they call and the police arrive, they will be treated with the same respect and dignity on the South or the West Side that they would in my neighborhood, in Logan Square, or in Roscoe Village, or in Lincoln Park, or Portage Park. Let me also take this moment to clarify some of my comments from Tuesday. I have said that the violent weekend was a fail, and it was. The number of shootings was simply unacceptable. But some interpret my comments as targeting Superintendent Brown specifically, and let me be very clear, nothing could be further from the truth. Superintendent Brown has and will continue to have my unflagging support, full stop. I am 100% plus committed to his success, and I have, what I have seen so far, I have every confidence that he will be one of the greatest leaders that the Chicago Police Department has ever been graced to have. Now, Getting through this most challenging time is going to continue to require all of us to be steadfast and vigilant in every neighborhood. But we must also remain steadfast and vigilant in our commitment to fairness, to equity, and to justice. That's how we can make sure every one of us can feel safe. And I dedicate myself to that principle every single day, and today is no different, nor will tomorrow be. Now, let's turn to the purpose of our gathering here today. I want to acknowledge the people who are standing here with me. Our Deputy Mayor for Economic and Neighborhood Development, Samir Mayakar, who has done tremendous, tremendous work throughout this pandemic and is the reason why we have been successful on many fronts. I want to recognize Gary Cooper, actual name, Gary Cooper, who is the CEO of Reaply. And who was responsible for helping us set up our PPE marketplace. And a woman you all know, our Public Health Commissioner, Dr. Allison Arwady. For the past 2 months, our city has undergone an unprecedented effort in response to an unprecedented crisis, turning our lives and our entire economic life upside down in order to keep our city safe from the COVID-19 virus, and to keep our healthcare system from being overwhelmed. Throughout this time, I have been deeply gratified by the service and sacrifice made by countless Chicagoans from every corner of our city and every walk of life. That starts with the incredible work undertaken by our healthcare professionals, first responders, and essential workers who make sure our residents are cared for and keep our entire city running. But our ability to meet this moment would not have been possible without the work and compassion of countless other Chicagoans, people like you, who have stepped up in this time of need in our city in tremendous ways. From the small army of individuals working in our food distribution centers, to our teachers and school staff who have allowed our students to learn online, to every Chicagoan who did their part by simply staying home and saving lives. It's because of your efforts that I am very happy to announce that on Wednesday, June 3rd, the City of Chicago will be taking our first step into phase 3 of our reopening process by allowing many of our businesses and city areas to partially reopen to the public. As we announced last week, these businesses will include our office-based jobs, professional services, and real estate services with capacity limitations, along with hotel, lodging, and limited outdoor attractions, including non-lakefront golf courses. We'll also see the partial reopening of restaurants and coffee shops with a focus on outdoor space, as well as non-essential retail stores and personal services, such as hair and nail salons and barbershops, with precautions in place to protect workers and customers. We will also be reopening childcare and in-home family daycare facilities, all of which support our work that needs to be away from home. Our phase 3 reopening for city services will be delayed by a few days, but it too will reopen on June 8th. So for all you parents listening, that means our kids can start using libraries and park facilities west of Lakeshore Drive. These new steps are accompanied by guidelines for specific industries, all of which are now available online at chicago.gov/reopening. I want to take this moment to note that Chicago was the only major city in America who did not cut service to transit systems during this crisis. And Dorval Carter, the president of the CTA, and all the hard-working men and women who made this possible at the CTA deserve our thanks and credit. However, we will still need our travelers to maintain social distancing as we move to phase 3 in our reopening on Chicago Transit. For that to happen, We'll need our businesses to stagger start and end times as much as possible so as not to overwhelm our CTA during traditional peak hours. I also want to remind all of our local small businesses, community-based organizations, and small not-for-profits about our partnership with local startup Reaply to provide them with access to purchasing face coverings, hand sanitizer, and protective barriers from local Chicago vendors so that they can be prepared as we cautiously reopen. We also announced last week our hope is that during phase 3, we will be able to begin reopening other parts of our city, including summer programs, youth activities, religious services, gyms, and yes, our lakefront and beaches. But we'll have to wait to see how these initial first steps go. Which brings me to something that I want to remind everyone about. Let's be clear. Under no circumstances should our move to phase 3 be confused with this crisis being over, because it's not. COVID-19 is still very much part of our present. I can't emphasize this enough. And as we reopen, please understand that we're doing so with the full knowledge that we cannot totally eliminate risk of this virus. The best we can do, and really the best that you can do, is continue following the public health guidance around social distancing, hand sanitizing, and please, wearing a mask in public. Having resurgence in cases is more than just a risk. It's a very real possibility. And we have seen this in other nearby states. All we have to do is look to the north, the south, the east, or the west for examples. And if this happens, we will not hesitate to take the necessary steps, including moving back into phase 2 if necessary. So folks, let's just be smart. Let's follow the guidance. Let's follow the social distancing, wearing a face covering in public, doing all the things that you have done because you know that this saves lives and reduces the spread of the virus. It's for these reasons that phase 3 will only allow for small, non-business social gatherings of 10 people or fewer. And we will still have us wearing face covering and physically distancing when meeting others. It will also have us saying and really pleading that if you are sick, you must stay home. And anyone who's come into contact with someone from COVID-19 must take the necessary precautions, including isolating yourself. And those who have COVID-19-like symptoms must immediately reach out to a healthcare provider. In conjunction with our phase 3 reopening, we are also launching our new public awareness campaign called Be Safe Chicago, across our social media, billboards, radio, and other venues. To get the word out about phase 3, what phase 3 entails, and to help ensure there's no confusion about what it means for our city and our residents, we will be embarking on this public campaign. During our first 2 phases of COVID-19 crisis, our campaign was Stay Home, Save Lives, and it worked, helping us get to where we are today, and we are grateful for everything that you did to make this possible. Now, our job, as we start to cautiously reopen, is to be safe. We may be moving out of our homes, but this phase is still fraught with risk. And the only way for us to be successful is for all of us, you and me, to focus on being safe together. It's in that same spirit that we're also embarking on a new partnership that I'm excited about with the Second City, Chicago's legendary comedy institution, to produce a weekly web series entitled Phased and Confused that will communicate information about our Protecting Chicago 5-phase reopening framework. And lastly, I also want to take this opportunity to ask our residents to take a new survey, a recovery survey, which is available on our city's COVID-19 website chicago.gov recovery survey. Hearing from all of you is enormously helpful as we develop our phase 3 plans, and we don't want that to stop. So please keep it coming. Fill out our survey and give us your thoughts about what recovery should mean for the city. And help our task force, which is now looking forward to life in phase 3 and beyond. Folks, this is an exciting moment for our city. The world will be watching how we do. And I want to make sure that when those reports start coming out, that Chicago is a model for the nation and the world, that we came out of stay at home in a smart, sensible manner because our residents understood each of our obligations to be safe and the things that we needed to do to get there. I want to express my gratitude once again to everyone who has made this moment possible. Everything we have done to meet this moment has been the direct result of your hard work and sacrifice, following the public health guidance, even at great sacrifice to yourself, and being uncomfortable at moments, which has not only saved the lives of thousands of Chicagoans over these past 2 months, but it's helped lay the groundwork for the transformative recovery that we're all excited to embrace. Thank you for everything. And at this moment, I want to invite Dr. Arwady to give us further details on our city's health metrics at this time. Doctor?